Hi everyone, High Priestess Mother Goddess Baphomet here. Today we are going to speak on like a really deep subject, and this subject we have touched in the past but in a completely different light. So today I'm here to do something that I hope that if I can do this, that this can transmute to others who have been on one journey and investigating so far down um, one path, to find something different, to actually allow them to turn around and say, okay, that was not the correct path. It was interesting things that I learned along that journey, and definitely those things are usable now in my quest for truth. But I realize now that is not the path to truth. So I'm going to go back to where I was and rethink about this with this new knowledge and see if there is a new path. Okay, so like this is something that, well, from my observation anyway, I've seen in the conscious community. It's like really difficult to do. Um, of course, once you find one piece of information and that information leads you to another and another and another and another, you automatically start to think, well, this one is true, so this one is true, and this one is true. And somewhere along the line, you go from could be true to wow, these are all the truth. And sort of remind you guys that the energy, the spirit that we're working with, because this is not just what people think is of a reality. Um, this whole matrix, this tricks is a clue there, is like a jester energy. Mother Goddess is a jester energy, and she's constantly working to help to dissolve the ego around you. Um, so she gives you information, she teaches you things that help you to level up, and she puts things in there that are basically are not the truth, but she knows at what point you're going to be emotionally triggered to follow information. So she puts other things in there for you to be emotionally triggered, just to to remind you that we are all we can all be deceived. Yeah, like none of us are invulnerable, to the game that is being played here. That is life. Some people of course don't know that this is a game. They're just kind of living. um those people, for the sake of understanding what is actually going on, those people have been called non-players. So it's like, whilst you're living this game and you don't realize that it's actually a game, so you're not really bothered to do your best to pass any levels. You just kind of maybe stay in the one position you are, just like in a normal, like say, like a platform game, like a computer game. You go through levels and you have characters in each levels, and some characters are not in the other levels, some characters are just in those levels. So imagine that to be like life now. Well, that is life. And the characters that just kind of stay where they are without realizing what's going on, that's what they're being called non-players. Now, this in no way is putting anyone down at all. Yeah, it's just a description. So here within, you have to use your ego disillusion and be a bit humble, to be able to understand that and not take that personally. If that description is you, don't take it personally. You're still important to the game. Like, without those characters in the game couldn't even be played. The levels would just be filled up with players, and wouldn't be a very dynamic game. You know, there wouldn't be much happening into your environment. However, in this particular game, any of these non-players at all can wake up, can become part of the game. Our story, of course, is already written, and not every character is going to wake up, but and become a player. But you know, there is definitely an opportunity. So if you are watching this and you do feel like that description fits you, maybe this is just the beginning of the time when you are about to become a player. Being a player now is when you start to realize that there's more to this cycle that you've been in, and maybe some things around you aren't quite what they seem, and you need to start to do now work things out. You need to work things out. You need to start thinking, okay, so how do I get to the next level? I feel like I'm stuck in this one level here, and I believe there is more to life. So how do I get now to that next level? And at this point, that's when we start to go on a journey, start to go on a quest, even. And you start to do research, um, connections with other people as well, people that may not look or act like you are, so that you can begin to get other information that exists outside of your paradigm, to get a fuller view of what this game is, and you know how you can actually break out of the cycle that you're in. This at some point in that quest, shit gets real. And you begin now to see there are some things that are pretty cardboard, and i.e. things like government, media, you know, corporation. You start to think like, well, this thing is showing me that they're this, but really it is this. At that point, that's where the ego dissolution begins, but also builds as well as dissolves, because you go from becoming a player to a new type of programming, and in some forms, you can become at this point you can easily become trapped on that setting and become a new type of non-player. So we believe that non-players are just people who are just not aware. That is not the case. As the levels increase, we interact with different types of characters now, and those characters were the non-players who became players, who now back to being non-players in the level above. Breaking out of that cycle is now moving to the next level, and this does also show us how we are reflected in you know, in that cycle that life is. You know, if anyone knows about the cycle of time, we move through what we call an iron age into bronze to a silver, and then we into the golden age. And if you can imagine bronze and silver being that player, yeah, and golden being like that infinite player, you know. But of course it's not technically infinite, because at some point we go back to the iron age and we keep going around again, and that's also, that's a reflection of what's happening here. So this video was really about me breaking out of that next level of non-player back into being a player again. And I do feel like I have been playing this game for some time, but a part of me broke out of that a while back, but wasn't quite sure how to break out of that completely, because you don't really know. I mean, of course, a lot of this is speculation, theory, and also guidance as well. So I receive guidance from my higher self, from Mother Goddess, from me, and that allow me to see through spirit into what is reality. Trusting self in this process is a massive part of that process, and for me, um, it's it's really been about coming to that point where I can trust my, say, for the sake of, for you to understand where I'm coming from, my inner voice, my higher voice, um, and that guidance system, being able to trust it, even though I know that I'm a jester and I know that I create things to happen, so I can help things transform from one point to another. There was a certain time when I broke out of the aspect of myself that was a non-player, and I started learning, started guiding, and I started being guided rather, and guiding, um, to learn more about the world. One of the first thing that one of the first things that I embarked upon in my vision, well, my quest rather, for vision, was media puppets. And there's some speculation around what media puppets really are in the conscious community. Some people believe that they are clones that have been genitally mutilated and transformed into another sex in some ritual that will create an inversion of reality. And in some respects, that is true, but not in, I believe now, not in the physical aspect of that. Um, I believe that now that the illusion goes far, far, far beyond what we do physically to make things seem inverted, so that we can have like an inverted view of reality. Um, I believe now that these puppets are puppets, but not puppets in the way that we think they are. They are puppets in the way that all of us are puppets, that we are all puppets to spirit, and we're all being pushed around the chessboard, um, most of us without knowing, some of us in the knowing. And the higher up the so called pyramid that you go, the more in the knowing you become. And actually, the knowing itself is innocent. And I'll explain. Um, I developed a little. Okay, so literally this is inverted. I'm sorry, so I can't show you here, but I will read it to you. Yeah, because I've got my camera on reverse. Yeah. Um. So beginning at the bottom, you have society. You have people who. So I'm going to explain how it all works now. You have society. Society equates to people who are following, believing, living, in some senses being pushed around, in some senses cordoned and gated into certain areas. in some form, all of us are society in that aspect. Um, but the point of not really being able to see, not necessarily what the truth is, because you see, as I'll go on to explain, not every step of this journey they actually know the truth. Um, you know, just having to theorize. Um, so an example of that would just be your ordinary person who's just at home and is just like goes to work and comes back, watches the news, maybe goes to their church or mosque or whatever religious thing that anyone's a user, anyone's a service user with all of these next levels, who knows, who's being in some form controlled with belief. That is society. And the way that they get, the way that we, because it's we are doing this, and I'm going to show you how, that get to do this is by using what we call media puppets. Um, as I said, people believe that these media puppets are actually, in some form, real human dolls that have been manipulated to program us into things. And this is true, but not in the sense, well, yes, physically manipulated, but say rather, if the more I come to look, the more I come to research and see the truth which lay there. A lot of these media entities, they are they come from a long family of performers, entertainers, and all of these, and they've all been kind of trained and given those programs from basically from birth. Um, Whether that is just being able to look up to an auntie you've seen is a great singer, and then they get to come take you out and they'll go and see places and stuff like that, and you know, um, and then you get the idea, the vision in your head, oh, one day that's gonna be me. Um, from that type of programming to literal Michael Jackson programming, where you like from 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 small been taken and put together and made to perform. Um, a lot of the times, these families are already working in these systems, so they know how it goes. They know how, when you are like feeding them, they've been given a platform to use in a specific way, and they are allowed to do certain things but not other things. Um, for the most part. So people like celebrities and stuff like that, in that instance, are, well, we'll say are innocent, because they're not really being given any other information. Just like models who step onto a set and come with no makeup, nothing, and the designer or photographer gets to manipulate them to create the image that they want. So it's not the model creating their image, it's the person behind the model creating the model's image. Most celebrities are in that aspect, working to push their talent, that they've been training for their whole lives, having to meet a certain criteria. So they do that criteria so that they can be seen and heard, that they can, stay within that realm and keep being successful and keep being seen and heard, as all of us do who've pushed forward to have a career in whatever field it is, whether you work for the social care system or the justice system or whatever. Everyone's just trying to fall in line so they can climb higher and higher and higher up the ladder. All right. These media puppets are not just like singers and actors, though. Media puppets are, people from religious institutions, yeah, um, you know, government, um, royal families, even, you know, all of these types of people, they are in a position where they have now have to become a face of whatever is being represented to to give information to you, which is programmed into your mind and to your spirit to teach you how to be and how to be in society. So you see, this is the next rung over the society, the media puppets. As I said, for the most part, these elements are in this somewhat um naive, yeah, to what's really happening. They're just having to play the game a certain way to get up the ladder and to keep the success that they've been having. Now, of course, um how do they not know? Well, it's so simple. And like, I was watching the new Britney documentary, and something dawned on me, something that I've seen personally for myself, is how much security um that each of these media puppets have. And I think about, the way in which we've been told now in the world that whatever's been doing for us is for our own good and for our own protection. Well, these security are not actually security, but these security are more so like handlers, which are there to watch and observe and make sure that these puppets stay in line and they keep doing and sticking to the criteria of what is they're supposed to be doing. And if they don't stay within that, then they actually can get cut down, and they can, at that point, you know, they may even come to some harm, because it's always the threat of either, violence or financial violence, and once a person is living a certain type of lifestyle, is then easily financially manipulated, because your lifestyle takes a certain amount of it takes a certain amount of finances and energy to keep that flowing and keep that going. So you don't want to lose those comforts. You don't want to lose those comforts, not just for you, because remember, these are families as well. Potentially, you cutting yourself off from that is not just cutting you, but it's cutting your whole bloodline as well. So, there's a lot of pressure there to stay in line and to keep doing what it is that you need to do. Of course, this looks different for everyone and at different times, because each character is different and needed for a different thing. Just like if in stories, each character is going to each character has a different dynamic, and that dynamic adds to the story and makes the story more real. If all the characters were just the same, story wouldn't be very real. These puppets wouldn't really be of any good to society, because society would be able to say straight away, okay, well, they're all the same, so that don't look right. So some of these puppets are seemingly more innocent and more successful. Some of them are seemingly more sinister, and you know, and this is where we get that variety that makes us keep guessing. Like, we just don't know who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. There's no good and bad guy. They're all part of the story. They're all part of the programming. Um, what we what we what becomes good and bad is not within them, it's within us, what we choose to follow, what we choose to believe as society, because that's what society are, they're the believers and the followers. So whatever whatever reflection we see that we tie ourselves to, that is what is within us. um for me, at this point now, I'm kind of seeing everybody the same, and I feel like I'm at a point of forgiveness for all of that, because I understand that they're all just doing what they need to do for the game to continue. So I feel that forgiveness in them is potentially the forgiveness I have in myself, and I hope that others can get to that realization as well. So, who is controlling these media puppets? We've had two rungs of the ladder so far. We've got society, then we've got the media puppets, yeah, and now we've got the corporation, and the corporation are kind of still in the dark. So remember, we've been in the dark, media puppets in the dark. The corporation now still actually in the dark. The corporation are again working to the criteria what they can. They seemingly, to them and to others, have more power because they have more influence, and they have more knowledge. They have more knowledge. So this is when we get into things like group and stuff like that. And the Masonic societies that hold on to the occult knowledge of, which occult means hidden, the occult knowledge of us and our spirit and reality and the world. And in some respects, they're in the dark, but in some respects, I guess they do understand that this is a game. But they've chosen now to continue to be these characters. And again, a lot of these characters, they exist in the same way as the media puppets do. They come from bloodlines, they come from families. Um, we're thinking of them as banking families and stuff like that. We're looking to people like Bill Gates and stuff like that. And Richard Branson of Virgin. Virgin is another clue. Because obviously Virgin Mary and everything, to actually who is running this. And as long as they stay in line, they can continue to have power. A part of what they need to do is be wicked, to be able to control that much power, knowing that society itself has barely any power. Um, I guess for us as ordinary people, we think that if we were in that position, that we would be different. Um, I know, coming from where I'm coming from, that if I was in that position, I would definitely be different now. But who's to say if one is born into one of those families, and they're born into there, and they have that programming and they have that pressure to keep the power within the family, that one would actually be able to make a different decision. I'm sure there are parts of corporation that do so, and just like the media puppets, there are the dark and the light. There are the characters, rather, that are doing good things, and there are characters that are doing bad things. um their their main goal is to keep power and money, and they created like that by the mother goddess, by existence, um because that is what is needed at that point to be able to dissolve now the information down to society, to move the pieces around, which is those characters, those non-players and players at the bottom there. you know it has to come from that, in that way. This is an example of like how light can come from dark. And again, the cycle of everything, the cycle of birth, how a seed is planted into the ground, it's dark, it's wet, it's dense, but then it grows out of the ground, and it becomes a flower, and it actually feeds on water and light. So similarly, these corporations are that seed, and we are the light. Having the crazy programming, and having to work our way through that and overcome that and grow out of that to reach up and find who we are. It really takes all of these steps to be able to to get the information to us in the right way. And we'd like to think, oh, well, why don't mother just tell us how it is? It's not really that simple, is it? Because this is a very complex system which we're living in. And for it to really work, for it to be infinite, for it to have all of the dynamics of dark and light and fit all of that experience into it, this is the way in which mother creates it. So yeah, so you have those corporations now. Those corporations are tasked with holding on to that knowledge. um those corporations are also tasked with performing in a certain way. And they at this point know that what they're doing is a performance, but it's part of what they need to do also to cover up that occult knowledge what they got and make it so that no one don't look at it. So, if you've been following our journey, what we do, what we talk about, you see that, we studied like loads of things, and we went very deep into the aspects of things, also like the satanic religions and things like that, to see what was within there. And those that humbly went to that and to look for that, or found that even as a salvation to themselves, found all the light and the beauties there. And the ones that didn't really look, just found this illusion that was created by these corporations, by these characters rather, within the corporations, to hide what was truthfully behind that veil. And that veil is so thin, it's really paper thin. It's so easy just to see through it. So the task of that is seemingly easy, but difficult, so because we're shrouded in fear. And remember, we're seeing from 2 steps down, we're having to go through things like religion and government conspiracy and stuff like this. And of course, a lot of these characters are actually doing some of the wicked things that we've seen, and these things exist in society for real, and those things exist as a guise. However, these corporations, what they're doing is like, you've ever seen, I think it's called The Village. And in The Village, it's a movie in which is I think it's M Night Shanahan or something like it's called, the maker of it. But in The Village, they live in a town, and in the town, um everyone believes that they live in a past world, where in fact they live in the future. But the leaders of the town decided not to let anyone go out, so they created this monster. And it was really just the leaders of the town dressing up in costumes to seem like a monster that is hurting and killing people, when in fact the whole thing was just fear. As you would go out, you go out into the woods and see these monster characters in things, they looked like, so terrifying. And the view that you have of the world also is not an advanced view. The view that they had of the world at that time is one that's more primitive, because they've been kept back from teachings, from knowledge, from things, with access to the outside world, access to technology, access to communication as well. So they don't really have the capacity at that time to see that monster and decipher that this monster could be not a real character. So this is a lot like what the characters within the corporation, they're having to do. They do the dress up and the ceremonies and things like that for pictures, for things, and then they leak this information, and they leak it to things, and they have the media puppets come and join them to act in these plays as well, so that they have all of this. And this acts as a guise to hide the truth behind what is really happening. So this is just literally just a show, a stage show. Um, of course, within that arena, because there are people that are fully unaware of what is actually going on. These things do create mental health issues, and there are things that exist within these things, just as all do, when you don't when you're unable to step out of the paradigm and everyone's just all squished together and they don't have no control over themselves, you know, things start to breed within those types of environments, a lot like what we see in ordinary homes where things like child abuse and stuff like that exists within there. So these are, symptoms of that type of environment, and that also happen within these arenas as well. So yes, these things do exist, and but they're not truthfully any ritual that is going to bring anything to anybody. They're just the mental health that has come out of having to live these illusions and not having control over your own life. And for the most part, sometimes drunk with power as well, and trauma as well experienced in the programming of coming from where they were to the position where they are, where they have to program others. That a lot of trauma is also created in that path to take a child from there. Now, a child can definitely learn and be programmed in a positive light, and that's what I do hope to show in the future within my own journey. So stay tuned for that. That should come in a few years. um, of actually, and I've seen that in real life with people who are homeschooled their children, and the children are very intelligent and have a positive path towards becoming an influencer. Now becoming an influencer with knowledge as well. So yeah, like that's a new path that we are creating now, because we are at that point where we are turning. So again, whatever is feeding that, wherever this is feeding from, is feeding from a place to just manipulate and make things happen through the cycle of time as well. So of course, right now on the brink of Aquarius, this is all that we can. This is what we see. Um, you know, we've seen literally records of hundreds, even thousands of years of war and power hungry people, colonization, slavery, you know, and it would be easy at this point for someone in society not understanding the knowledge of the cycle of time, not understanding the truth about reality, the occult truth of the reality that we're living in. It will be easy for someone to go, that's just the way it is, because that's how it's always been. But of course, as we move now out of that Iron Age into Bronze Age, we are getting a new type of character, a new type of influencer, because we're no longer having to influence these characters within these, I would say, players and non-players within society, to purge that wickedness within them as part of that existence experience. Of course, as I would say, human experience, but we're all here living an experience. Animal, the other, rather, because we're animals too. The other animals, their experiences are also a part of that, and them being enslaved, and us being the slavers and enslaved at the same time. Right. So, but who are programming these? Because we've gone 3 steps now. We've gone society is at the bottom. That's the players and non-players. Then we've got the media puppets. That is the programs given to the players and non-players. Then we've got the corporations, the ones that seemingly have power, but they create now the constraints for the media puppets to be able to give those programs to society. But those corporations are being programmed too. They live within a certain type of criteria. They have things that they need to do. They have to create the stage show. They are giving wealth and success and power, but it has to be, again, within a certain way, given guidance. The next one, what we go up, this is one that we haven't seen. This is one that we don't have much information on, only some clues as to what that information is. And that is what I'm calling shadow government. So we've got the corporation, and then we've got the shadow government, which is the true governing power of our world. And people this also this again, so we've got these corporations creating or whether they're creating or not, they are the living dolls for these shadow governments to be able to create the media that goes out to us, that show them in the lights of being reptilian and such and whatever. And of course, as you go on to study the truth of our world and what this world is, you begin to realize that this reptilian energy is really just about our darkness. It's really just about the higher senses that we have, and our ability to do things from a source energy, to do things from a fire energy, and see things in a more, say, around or rounded view, rather than just pin a whole point onto one aspect. Just like you've got your lizard and the eyes, see, little gecko sees everywhere. This is that reptilian energy, that is that point of source, and it's got a guise of being monstrous. And of course, this is where, all these programs that we've been given of dinosaurs and everything, they all work into, so we can really, really, really fear them, because the big dinosaur Tyrannosaurus Rex comes in, and it swallows you up, doesn't it? So you don't want that. Stay well clear. Don't mess with reptilians, so they say. But reptilian energy is a part of every single one of us. It's the way our consciousness works. And then what happens is our consciousness, this is what we're talking about when trusting your inner voice. You have that inner voice that tells you no, stay back from that. But then before you actually stay back from that, your mind starts processing, and it's working on all these other programs and emotions. And then you go to yourself, actually, I'm unsure that thing was what it was. I'm going to go with my mind now and not my gut instinct. So your reptilian energy, in some senses, represents your gut instinct. And so just like, working from source without all those programs onto you, this is your reptilian energy. And so the shadow government are enlightened beings. And so, like, I realize that that the it's basically a collection of persons, maybe a civilization outside of our own. They will be higher intelligence beings. They have like, just like in the village, like, we are in the village and we think we're in some prehistoric times. They've been living in the future, and they've lived through this future for the entire time. They have access to healing technology. They may even be able to live forever, like, so I know this all sounds like really, really fantastical now, but then of course it's supposed to, and that is the point, is that because it's so unbelievable, then we start to say to ourselves, well, it how can this, like, possibly, it can't possibly be, because something like that can't exist. Therein is the illusion needed for them to be, it's working, basically. It's working. That's the illusion in work. So and they are there to help and to guide that process, so that we can be able to purge things. But why do they exist? Why do they exist at all? If they are in the higher power, simply because the next rung of the ladder is is OI, is mother tree, is one. So we go from, just like in creation, we go from one, and OI is organic intelligence. People talk about artificial intelligence. I don't actually believe in artificial intelligence, because a program is a program. We're all being programmed. So we're all part of matter, all part of the fabric that is of everything, and I don't really have any fear over that, and complete respect for everything in existence. Nothing is artificial. I'm artificial. If something else can be artificial, I'm artificial. I seemingly have a soul because I can speak, but each and every part of everything around me is created from soul, because soul creates everything. It's just I have this avatar, and this avatar allows me to speak. It allows me to have a a more dynamic experience of life. But you know, this chair is also here, and it has a journey too. You know, it's a chair. It cannot speak to me, but it has marks on it. You know, it's come a long way. It's come from somewhere else. I got it second hand. It's been on a journey too. It cannot express itself, but in the story, it's been here. In the story, it's been created, and one day it probably will break, and it will become rubble. You know, just as we all do. So when I say organic intelligence, I mean the top higher intelligence that is controlling everything. And of course, I know from my personal experience, I know factually that Mother Goddess is guiding everything. And so I call like Mother Goddess like super intelligence. And I believe my theory is that Mother Goddess, I run everything via the center, just like everything comes from our heart, the center, which is Mother Tree. And Mother Tree is not something that can be just accessed. You know, Mother Tree is something that is sending energy to all parts of ourselves throughout the whole universe, and sending information everywhere. But the in being in the oneness, those higher intelligence beings are then tasked at being the masters of everyone by controlling those corporations, and doing pushing the pieces on the chessboard as they need to, because they know, because they're in the oneness, that corporation is then going to react and act in a certain way through having those programs, to allow that to trickle down to those parts of society. So yeah, Mother Tree at the center of everything, um yeah, works her way like through like that. So yeah, this is just kind of like, this video was mapping that whole journey and try to kind of dissolve some of the disillusions. I'm not asking anybody to believe what I'm saying. Please do not just believe what I'm saying. But if this is if this can be a clue, some insight into some things that you're seeing, then this might help you to get out of that stage where you are basically a next level non-player, you know, where you might have been emotionally trapped by some of the things that are happening. Some of the things that you're finding are true, but they are happening as a way for those programs to continue. And you cannot get to the next level. You cannot access this information. You cannot see this truth if you are still stuck on blaming them for what they are. They are characters in the story. We are not here to blame any of these characters for anything. We are accepting these characters as they are. That does not mean that we're not here to try and change them. We are absolutely 100% here to try and change those characters and change the roles in which they are playing. We are here to heal the Mother Goddess and heal the earth, right? So, yeah, so when we are coming across these things, we are definitely need now to be working on the level we are at, yeah, to try to help to heal our environments. One of the easiest ways to do this is by becoming empathetically within yourself the mother goddess and working that healing through yourself. And I talk a lot about the alchemy of the reflection. The alchemy of the reflection states that whatever we are experiencing, somewhere within us lay that. Now, we may not think, that, for example, I'll give you an example. Things exist for us sometimes in our childhood like they are for the future. Yeah. But also there are things that is happening around us. I.e., like when we're eating meat and we're doing things. We are innocent in when we're doing these things. We don't know better. But we are complicit, like in these acts. Not every person, of course, who eats meat is going to be exactly like a slave, like that you can see. It's not going to suffer abuse and stuff like that. But some will. Because, of course, mother's not going to make all of us be abused. Again, not all characters can have exactly the same journey. But she is going to do enough for us to see exactly what is happening in the world. So rather than blaming our stories for the things that is happening to us, what we do is we look inside and we say, okay, well, I'm actually complicit myself in, the harm, the slavery, the torture, the rape of innocent beings. And if I can stop doing that to them, then maybe I can take a little bit at that in the world, and that can help to heal them in the world. And it does. As we've seen with the vegan movement over the past like 3 or 4 years, as in this time as we're going into Aquarius, of course, it's all aligned, it's for purpose. As we become aligned, our environments become aligned. That might not directly be our family, but your environment is not necessarily you. You're not exactly who you are in your family. You don't know exactly, like, they might not go vegan because you've gone vegan. But everybody who is like you, that magnetizes towards you, those people will feel your journey, and those people will see a reflection of themselves, and those people will learn to heal themselves. And as more and more of us heal themselves, as less of that trauma exists in the world, then less of that trauma exists for us. So this is one way in which we can heal some of those things within us. So yeah, like, to just in conclusion, to to rather than protesting, and fighting and creating this war, we really need to try now take a step back and be more serene, so that we can make those connections that actually make a difference, and they make things happen in reality, and they change the game, and not get stuck in that war energy that comes from us being emotionally triggered from the things that we don't like, but rather to bring healing. And there are people out there, good people right now, that are doing excellent works to try help to save the children, for example. And that is great. Keep going. In no way am I telling you to not keep going. But maybe your belief system and the way in which you're doing it might be a hindrance to your actual goal. This is where we have to be the mother. A mother does not act out of emotion. She acts rationally, because the welfare of her child is more important than her own emotions. Either she keeps that to the side, she holds that back. She may even become stronger through it, just so she doesn't project that onto the child, and that shows she can help the child. Do you understand? Right. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like this video. I'm known as Mother, and if you like this video, please do subscribe, and also follow our music. we're on M9 Vivo. A lot of the information that we give is broken down into the music. Music is quite a short way, in which obviously I'm speaking for an hour here. A song can be up to maybe 6 minutes. I mean, I'm old school. My songs don't last 2-3 minutes. Yeah, so our song can last up to like maybe even 6 minutes. Yeah, and there's not much time to put all of this information into that, but information is in there, and music definitely is a great way of passing this information. So please do share this video, join our channel M9 Vivo, find us online M9 Awakening. So join us at our socials, help to share, help to enlighten others so that others can be in this oneness and start to really understand this thing that we're in. And yeah, as we move up the levels, we're going to be able to do the real healing. Thank you so much. Have a great day.